Under the Sea by Peyton Sherrill. Chapter 1. Old Sailor Tales. It was a cloudy day at sea. Old Thunder, an old rusted metal ship, was sailing on its usual voyage across the Caribbean. She was carrying a total of 40 sailors. One of these sailors was a man named Charles Parker, who was in his mid-20s at the time. The ship had been used for many voyages. It belonged to his father, who loved to sail as much as he did. The ship was really old. Her metal was rusting, and it clearly looked like she had been through a lot. Several holes were patched up to prevent any more leakage due to previous encounters with sharp rocks and other incidents. Charles had considered multiple times that this would be Old Thunder's final voyage. He had always felt drawn to the ocean. His father used to be a sailor as well once upon a time, just like him. Charles spent more time out on the sea than he did on land. The young man felt the ocean breeze touch his cheeks. He could feel the wind blow through his thick black hair. It's such a beautiful day. The weather isn't too hot or too cold. Nice breezes blowing on your face, and the water is so calm. It's amazing, Charles says, as he adjusts his old baseball cap that was handed down to him as a boy by his father. Charles was right. It was definitely a perfect day to be sailing on the sea. This voyage wasn't just any voyage. His wife, Amelia, was pregnant with their first child. He had gotten a call that she was going to be giving birth any day now. One of the old sailors was steering the ship. He was a man in his late 60s. His eyes were pale blue and he had a beard and a mustache. His name was Davy. Charles saw him as a grandfather because he and his father were really close friends. In fact, that was part of the reason why Davy often let him come on these voyages. The ocean was a big part of him. Anyone could see that. "Indeed it is, my lad. King Atlas must be feeling extremely joyful," says Davy. This was enough to catch Charles's attention. When he was a boy, his father would tell him stories about the sea, about King Atlas, mermaids and mermen, and even the lost city of Atlantis, where the Sea King ruled. That must be where he got his wild imagination from, his father's stories. He would never know exactly how right the old sailor was. Way down into the watery depths below, in the legendary city of Atlantis, King Atlas's wife, Syria, had given birth to 5 boys. The firstborn son had blonde hair and blue eyes. His tail was a turquoise color. Just by looking at him, it was clear to see that he would be the one to take Atlas's place as king one day. For that reason, he named him Serenius, which means warrior. His second-born son had blue hair and a dark blue tail. His eyes were sea blue as well. This little one seemed to be afraid of everything, even of the sound of thunder, whenever the Sea King summoned a big storm. So, Atlas named him Terran, which means thunder. The third and middle son had black hair and blood-red tail with black fins. His eyes were also blue. He had freckles on his face, which he got from his mother. Because of his black fins and red tail, he was named Thameses, which means dark one. The fourth-born son had light brown hair and blue eyes. His tail was almost a golden color. This merbaby would laugh at just about anything, serious or not. It was obvious he would become a jokester or a prankster as he grew older. Because he had a friend named Dorian who had a good sense of humor and could make anyone laugh, Atlas named his son after him and gave him the name Dorado, which means gold, and also because his tail was a golden color. As for the youngest-born son, it was easy to see this son would do big things someday, and even cause a little bit of mischief. The troublemaker. His hair was red like his mother's, and he also had his mother's freckles. He had a green tail. He would stand out from the rest. So he was named Aaron, which means exalted one. For a whole week, the merfolk celebrated the birth of the 5 princes with a huge underwater festival. It was a time of joy and excitement in Atlantis. The merfolk were the happiest they had ever been. On the shore, on that same day, in a house near the beach, Charles returned to his home in Santa Anne just in time to witness his wife give birth to a healthy baby girl. Their daughter. She had black hair and beautiful blue eyes. Eden Parker was born. Their daughter grew up with the heart of the ocean, which she must have gotten from her father and her grandfather. If she could be found anywhere, it would be at the farthest end of the beach where no one else would go. Her parents would see her sitting on the golden sand, staring out at the seemingly never-ending sea. Charles would often joke that he was convinced his daughter was a mermaid. Whenever she told him she was going to be at the beach, he'd respond every time with, "Okay, you go do your mermaid thing," or whatever it is you mermaids like to do, to which she'd roll her eyes at him and leave. Her father passed down the stories he was told to her. They were the same stories his own father told him when he was her age. Eden Parker never believed in legends or old sailor tales. That is, until the day she met one face to face. At the age of 9, one summer's evening, she decided to sneak out and go for a night swim at the beach. This was the night that would change her life forever. The night she met the youngest prince of the ocean, Aaron. Aaron did indeed enjoy causing mischief. If there was one thing he was good at, it was that. One time he found a yellow-lipped sea cat and let it loose in Atlantis, and it caused the merfolk to go crazy. He even befriended a shark named Squint. But he also had a huge thirst for adventure and danger. This would be a night that changed his life. The night he met Eden Parker. He was only 9 years old at the time, but it was a night he would never forget. The sky was as dark as a black cup of coffee. The moon was full, and it shined brightly with the stars twinkling. The air had a perfect summer breeze. That night itself was just perfect, especially for a late walk on the beach. Eden breathed the air and then exhaled. A slight smile curved on her lips. She never quite understood why, but whenever she heard the sound of the waves crashing onto the shore or felt the water in between her toes, it seemed like the ocean was calling out to her. This was one of those nights when she swore she could hear the ocean calling her name, telling her to come. Only this time, she didn't ignore it.